I'll say
Oh,
I
you
was
want to
wearing
say
my
it?
hat. I was wearing my Habs hat with pride, and I got a bit of a weird look considering who walks into a very professional environment like a media box wearing a hat
Okay.
of an NHL team. Like no one would do that. It's just like I wasn't expecting it to be that professional. We were both underdressed.
Yeah. But
At
we
least
were the worst part is that we were
I
both
had a dress
very
shirt
well
at least,
dressed. Yeah, we were both very well dressed, but unfortunately, it was just like everyone
but
was
we
just
weren't in
in a
like suit
suit and tie
yeah,
almost.
and
Yeah,
everyone else was.
yeah.
And yeah, that was something else. And like all around us were a bunch of like other NHL scouts from different American teams looking at
Yeah.
specific players in the game.
Mhm.
Also, NHL Central Scouting was there. There was QMJHL, like analytics guy was there. Like we felt a little bit out of our depths just by like who we were surrounded by in the press box, but it was
Yeah,
amazing. Also,
yeah.
we got play by play right behind us for the entire game,
I
which
was
was
gonna say as well. We have the gentleman from Kojiko Radio doing the play by play right behind us. So you literally had play by play, your TV screen was just a live show in front of you, and what was the best seats in the house and everything. And I know as Sebastian, you were saying, yeah, we felt a little bit out of our depth, maybe for the
well,
first 30
okay.
seconds, but
But what I
like
meant by that was more just like if you look at like
it was
everyone else around
intimidating.
us,
Yeah,
it was just an us.
yeah.
But it was great. Like I'm so happy that we got to go, but
Yep. Yeah.
it was something else.
There's a puck and roll is going up in the world, and we're hanging out with NHL scouts. So that's it was a very amazing experience. The game was a good experience
It
too.
was. It really was.
Like we had two the first two periods was just all out Gatineau dominating like crazy. They just oh man, like I haven't had a chance to pull out numbers, but they must have spent three quarters of the first two periods in the offensive zone, just circling around.
They were
How,
dominant.
however, they just couldn't like put it away because in the end, I mean, Sebastian, give us your review on the last period and how things happened.
Yeah, like in the first periods, like Gatineau was just dominant. Still, in the entire game, Gatineau was shut out at 5-on-5. Like they only scored on the power play, but it was just bad luck, basically. Like they were doing everything you could hope for in those first two periods, and then there was the weirdest lob shot at the end of the second period from Valdor. You actually watched like the highlights of the game, and like Patrick, you saw the lob like live. I didn't notice it was lob. I thought it was just a very weak shot, but it's a literal like has an
Yeah,
actual arch to it,
yeah.
right? And just lands in the top corner, and it goes in because of all the traffic. And it was just like the flukiest goal. And Vidal got all the momentum from that. And then they score a goal right at the beginning of the third period. Then they score another one on the power play. And yeah, and then in the end,
But how about that
Gatineau ties it.
how about that momentum shift though after the second after the third goal, sorry, from Valdal, because there was that
Exactly.
little garbage goal that tied it up and everything at the beginning of the period on the power play, and then a little
It was
controversial goal. There was a little cross
it was
checking. Eh?
controversial. The 3-2 goal was controversial because
Yeah,
okay, I'll just say this. We watched Isaac Beliveau the entire game and were not very impressed by his play.
he had a rough game. Yeah,
He had a very rough game, but he had a really good play on that goal for Vadal.
yeah.
He intercepted a puck that was probably going to end up being a goal. And then he was tripped up. And by number 15 for Vidal, I'm forgetting his name just this moment, but he was tripped up. And then 5 seconds later, 15 scores. And
Yep.
it just, like the entire crowd was booing. I wasn't quite sure what the booing was for because I had my eye on just Bedivu himself. I just saw him fall. I didn't know that he was tripped. But yeah, that was really painful. But the really promising thing was that Gatineau really won back a lot of momentum after that. And then on the game tying goal, what a player stood out once again that we loved the entire game, Patrick, as we were talking about with Will Scouch, and that was Noah Warren, who is this big hulking defensive defenseman who killed so many plays, like
Two
completely
assists,
unrivaled in that
two
game.
assists to that game. Yeah,
Exact. But the thing is, I was expecting him to be good, very good defensively, and he was. But the shocking thing was that his two assists, both on the power play,
Yeah.
both primary assists.
Yeah.
One of them, the first of those, was a brilliant pass when he was quite visibly itching to shoot the puck, but he had the presence of mind to pass it like to a teammate right in the lower slot, and easy goal. And then the second one was just him going for a rebound. So he shot off the pad of the goalie, shot out to another player that I loved in the game, in Olivier Boutin, who he's 18 years old. He went undrafted last year, and I thought he played exceptionally defensively. He's one of Gatineau's main penalty kill players.
Agreed.
And like he's the kind of player that I would love to just like draft with like a 6th round or 7th round flyer, of just solid player, looks good defensively in the queue, which stands out, and why not? And he got that goal as a reward for his good play.
Yeah, and my pick for the star of the night myself was also Noah Warren, because oh my goodness, like he just plays such a solid game, and this is the second time that I saw him play. The first time was in the Blainville season opener, and he's so consistent. Exactly the same thing. He was just like, he's so responsible on the defensive end. He protects his lane so well. He's surprisingly quick for a man his size as well. You know, like he's got good mobility. And then the
very smart,
very
intelligent
smart
player.
And that the assist on the first power play goal was so underrated because you know he positioned himself right in the middle of the slot, got the pass, and instead of just immediately blindly shooting, he literally just put his head up, saw the guy coming in, made the perfect pass, tipped it in, and that was just absolutely beautiful. And also to answer the question number 15 that we're talking about, who had the controversial goal, well, no, the penalty as well, was Alexander Mirzabaliev, who also ended up scoring the shootout winner, much to the
haunting the crowd too,
much to the dismay of the Gatineau crowd. So, but
he was not beloved in that arena.
No. So, just like Josh, we also had quite the event for this game, and Sebastian. And then the following day, you ended up attending an Ottawa 67s game. So maybe give us a quick recap of your experience there.
Yeah, I did, and sadly, I had to fork out some money to go. We did not get an immediate pass for them just yet. But it was really fun, and I was sitting next to other people that were like, they noticed that I was there with like a notebook and stuff, and they're like, "Are you with like Dobber Prospects, Elite Prospects?" I'm like, "No, just doing this for fun. We got the podcast." But
you should have said, "Yes, I'm with Puck and Roll, man."
Well, I mean, Dobber Prospects, again, they're being paid, but apart from that,
shout out to all the crew out of the Dobber Prospects. You guys are pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good scouting networks out there that are just doing amazing work. But that game was really interesting in that the 67s are a team that I was very much expecting to be terrible, considering that they were really screwed over by COVID, considering I believe they had a 52-10 record when COVID hit. They were dominant. They had Marco Rossi, Jack Quinn, a couple of older players that were really good, like Austin Keating comes to mind. But now with COVID, it's a complete rebuild because they lost all their star players and they haven't got good draft picks to replace them yet.
Yeah, exactly.
At the same time, they won the game. They won the game 3-2 against the Kingston Frontenacs and Shane Wright. The night before or 2 nights earlier, they lost again the Frontenacs 8-1. So I was not expecting a 67s victory, but it was nice also that like their first home game in 18 months was a win. So it was a nice storyline there. But it was a really interesting game, and some players stood out that maybe I wasn't expecting to. Like obviously I went to watch Shane Wright. Like that was the big incentive of going to the game, was just to see what Shane Wright can do against one of the OHL's weaker teams. And he got a goal. He scored the Frontenac's first goal of the game, the first period. And I liked the fact that it was not the typical goal that you'd expect from a sniper. He was positioned right in the lower slot in front of the goalie, and the puck came to him. He whacks at it. It's saved. Then while falling down, he whacks at it again and gets in, right? But like it was a very gritty goal for a star player. But it also was indicative of his very strange usage by the Kingston coaching staff. Like They
What
they
sense?
use him they used him as a screen a lot, and he's not a very big guy. So why are you wasting your star player to tip pucks in front of the net? I don't know.
But
Then
remember,
the next,
Sebastian. Remember, Sebastian. We were having that conversation on Saturday. That we every time we watch um, a game, a junior hockey game, you're going to see a lot of experimentation, right?
for sure.
You got a lot of coaches, asking players to do things they're not used to making, not only
Mhm.
just to see if the chemistry will work, but also, there's always scouts that are up there, and they're maybe asking the team and being like, hey, can you get him to do this because we wanted to know if he's actually capable of doing it, right?
At the same time, you don't really need to experiment when you have Shane Wright. Like
Yeah, true.
you give him the puck and you tell him to like just make
Just
things
go.
happen.
Just
Yeah.
go.
So
Yeah.
like also on the power play, instead of using him at the top of the left circle for his one timer, because Shane Wright is a sniper, like his shot is devastating. You want him to use the shot. So on the power play, you should probably just put him there on the top of the left circle. Instead, they're playing him at the top of the right circle, or like shifting between there and screening the goalie. And so it's kind of that Nick Suzuki spot that they used him in. But the issue was that it was so clear every time that they'd move the puck around as a power play just to get it to him right there so he could shoot. That the shooting lane is always blocked, right? Like the reason that Nick
Yeah.
Suzuki can succeed from a spot is that he has other options, right?
Mhm.
Whereas when Shane Wright got it, it was always so obvious that he was going to shoot that nothing happened. But at the same time, Shane Wright played a very good defensive game. He was very effective in transition. Like he was pulling. He's a very gravitational kind of player where he draws everyone to himself because he's such a star player. But he has a lot of presence of mind to then get the puck to a teammate, causing like a 2-on-1 or just an odd man rush of some sort. I thought he had a good game, but he wasn't quite as electrifying as I expected. At the same time, it's the first game in 18 months basically for him, so it doesn't mean anything as of yet.
No, exactly. I mean,
And
I don't think one game is gonna, or in this case, it's he's in the third game of the season. He's still ranked number one on the prospects
oh,
list, regardless. So.
this is the thing. Like I'm gonna go watch him again later in the season and just see how it goes then. But I mean, still, he still scored a goal. Like it doesn't matter.
I
Like
know.
through 2 games of the season, he has 2 goals and 2 assists. That's
Mhm.
he's doing fine. But like there are 2 other players that I thought were like that stood out quite a bit in that game. One of them was a guy I'd never heard of, Quentin Burns. He is a 6'2" left defenseman. And I was watching him play, and Kingston defensive core as a whole wasn't playing very well. But Burns just had a lot of, I guess, spark in his game of offensive plays that I guess showed some fun potential. And his puck carrying ability, I guess, not the most consistent in the world, but there were real flashes. So when I saw him play, I figured he's probably like a 19-year-old who just hasn't gotten drafted due to like inconsistency or whatever it is. But no, he's 16. He's a draft minus one player, and I thought he was Kingston's best defenseman of the night. So that stood out to me quite a bit. He was a second round draft pick in the OHL. So he's someone that I'll keep an eye on just because I thought he was 19 when he's 16. So that was fun. And I guess one 67 player that everyone at that game noticed him. Like you can't watch that game and not notice him, especially if you were there in person, because his impact on the game wasn't just on the ice. It was the persona. And I'm talking about someone that I took note of a couple of weeks ago as a 67 player that I should keep track of. And that's Brady Stonehouse. This is a guy who, at least in terms of his persona, is like mirror image of Brady Kachuk. Like absolute pest. The mouth guard, same thing. Just taunting constantly, always getting smacked around. He's smaller than Brady Kachuk. He's like 5'9". But he was really fun to watch because he just angered everyone constantly. He drew a penalty, I believe, and he got an assist, and just an all-around very effective game for his role. So I don't know, maybe as a player draft, like someone could target in the late rounds of the draft, just as like someone who could maybe in the future become like a fourth line grind.